Hello.
Could you just let me know your name so that I can put up it doesn't come up on your Zoom so that I can check off the registration?
Sure, it's Allison Aliquer.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And then same thing for Zoom user. If you could just let me know who you are. You don't have to put your camera on just so that I can check off on our registration so that we get back to everybody promptly who signed in tonight. That's really helpful. I'm sorry, Zoom user, I can see you. Oh, are you putting it in chat? Great. Thank you.
I'm Lindsay.
Oh, hi, Lindsay. Thank you. So we're just giving people, we opened a little bit early to give people time to sign in. Thank you, Sarah Jane. That's very helpful. My name is Amanda Goodwin. I'm the Director of Enrollment and Recruitment at Heartworks, and just going through with our registration list. I'll be monitoring chat during your discussion. David will clearly be the moderator and who your discussion is really here with tonight, but I just wanted to give everybody notice that you can't, during the discussion as people are talking, if you have thoughts, comments, questions that come up, please use the chat feature and we'll get to as many as possible. We're just giving people a few more minutes at 6:28 to come in before we officially start.
Yeah. Thank you all for taking the time to be here.
Also, I'll do my best to have my microphone off, but I'm also, like many of you, are a mom of 2 and 4-legged children. So if you hear anything in the background before I can close my mic, it's because others live in my house other than myself.
Good evening, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
We still have more people entering, so just waiting.
Yeah, we'll give people a bit
Yes.
of time. Yeah. It's no worries. No worries.
Hi, all again. Thanks for making time. My name's Amanda. I'm the Director of Enrollment and Recruitment. And we're just giving everyone time to get in. I really appreciate so many of you signing in. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, Caroline.
With your names, it makes following attendance a lot easier. So appreciate your support on that. You're welcome to keep your video on or off. I want to let everybody know that I will be monitoring and following the comments throughout our discussion. So as David is talking and we're going back and forth, if you have
formula, or you said you wanted a Peter, right?
Yeah.
if you have questions as we go on, if you keep your microphones off during presentation, it'll help with feedback as we have so many people that are joining. And then there'll be invitation to turn your mic on. You can also, again, put questions, comments as we go along in chat, and they'll be followed. David will be doing bulk of the talking and presentation, but if you also have a technical question during, please feel free to direct message me. Again, my name is right there on the screen. It's Amanda Goodwin, and happy to support in any way that I can. We still have people joining. It's only 1 minute after, so everyone's pretty prompt. So we'll just give everyone another minute here.
You were mini teachers?
You know what? At nap time started, Deacon was running around.
So, and who's this?
Sorry, Amanda, I
Who's
was
that?
not, I didn't hear the beginning of what you were saying because I had a child.
Family's on.
No problem. I understand. I also have a
They learn
kiddos.
about your daycare.
What?
You might want to mute everyone too.
Yeah. So just for the sake of,
So what's happened now is I just put everybody on mute, not because we don't want to hear you. We want to give everyone a voice tonight, but just so that we can go over as we start. Again, my name is Amanda Goodwin. I'm the Director of Enrollment and Recruitment at HeartWorks, and we're just giving everyone a few more moments to come in. David will obviously be doing the bulk of tonight's discussion. If and when you have questions, you can raise your hand through the app, which will let us know that you want to speak, and an invitation to unmute your microphone. And then also you can put any questions or comments as we go along in the chat that I'll be monitoring throughout the discussion. So David, we're 2 minutes in and I don't have anyone else left in I just let the last person into the waiting room. Everyone's mic right now is still muted as David starts to present. I'll click that off so everyone will have individual control of their, individual control of their microphone. If I do ask to mute you, it's only because we're having technical issues or people talking over each other and just looking to make sure that we provide as much space for everyone as possible. If you are not being called on and I've missed you for any reason, please feel free to put something in the chat, as I'll also be monitoring that throughout our discussion, and we'll be able to get to you that way. With that, David, I'll turn things over to you.
yeah, thanks, Amanda. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your helping out. So thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you. I want to acknowledge as well that we have tonight, I'll be speaking with you, talking to you, answering some of the questions that I've gotten directly in emails that folks have sent to me, telling you about the intention behind the tuition increase, something about the industry as a whole, our operating philosophy in terms of why the rebranding, the essential nature of the tuition increase. All of that will be thoughtful and intentional and very much kind of from the head, if you will. But I really do want to recognize that I recognize that we have put before you a very difficult challenge. And we know that this is a very deeply human business and a very deeply human enterprise. And that is your children, our teachers, you as families. And we can never forget the basic humanity of our collective enterprise here. And we know, and we have thought deeply about the challenge that we're putting before you, and it's never far from our minds. The difficult choice that we're presenting with this tuition increase. So I simply wanted to start with that. We're scheduled for an hour. I want to take about 30 minutes just to do, as I just described, some presentational information sharing. Then I want to leave 30 minutes to field questions, to hear from you. I want to thank our school directors, Nikki Bearer and Caroline Junot, for joining us tonight. Thank you to my colleague Amanda, who is the Director of Recruitment and Sales. Chelsea Ennis is with us, our enrollment specialist for Vermont. We also have Erin DeRoche, who is one of the folks who helps us administer our subsidy programs and our Act 166. That's a commitment that we have that is in candor, an administrative challenge for the organization, but it's a value that we hold dear in our organization in terms of trying to be able to provide as much support to families as possible. So I appreciate all my colleagues joining me this evening. I would like to note Tara Brooks is not available tonight nor tomorrow night. She has a personal commitments that she couldn't get out of. Tomorrow night, we will also be joined by our Director of Education, Megan McGinley-Crow, who also had something this evening, so I'm sorry for that. I know what brings us here this evening is not necessarily, does not feel like what we have in common. And of course, that's the purpose of tonight's call. But I would remind us that we have a lot of things in common, that we share a great many things. We share first and foremost a fundamental desire to do the best things for your child, whether that is health, safety, care, nurturing, education. That is what our frontline folks, teachers in our classrooms, the educators that we have, mentor teachers that we're incorporating into schools, what our talented and wonderful directors do every day. And so we do have, despite our differences, we do have very, very many things in common. And I think that that's important for us to keep in mind. It's something that we keep in mind regularly. I want to address a few of the things that came to Tara and I through the number of emails that came in. And I'm going to apologize in advance because I know I didn't get to respond to everybody, but I've read everyone. And so one of the very first things that I'd like to address is this rebranding. And the idea of that is in full transparency, this is not just changing the name over the door. This is an intentional effort to take what we all love about the Heartworks schools, the dedicated care and nurturing that's provided by those teachers, provided by the directors, and overlay to that long history more intentional pedagogy, curriculum, learning opportunities, training opportunities, all of which represent for us a delivery on our values of providing early education and care. That is, for our company, the hallmark of what quality childcare looks like, because we are based in the science. We know and have studied 0 to 3. We understand brain development. We are doing more in terms than we ever have, but we have always had a commitment to the neuroscience of learning. How is it that a young brain learns? What is it that a young brain is capable of? And what's the difference between an 18-month-old, a 36-month-old, and a 60-month-old in terms of what they're able to do? When we look at our best practices for curriculum, when we look at who's doing really good work in the field, we often look at, in the education sector, That could be private schools, it could be public schools, it could be primary schools, it could be our competitors. And when we look in Vermont at who is doing the best work that is relevant to Vermont, we look to ourselves, we look to the HeartWorks brand, and we look to the intentional, scaffolded education that works on a rhythm throughout the day for the children in HeartWorks that does not yet exist for LoveWorks. And so our intention, and it has been our intention for over a year, to take what is best of what we're doing at HeartWorks and bring that into the LoveWorks schools. There has been something of a history of the LoveWorks schools not having the benefit of all of that. Teachers at the LoveWorks schools not necessarily having all of the training opportunities that we've been able to afford for the HeartWorks folks. Pay differentials for those two workforces. Benefits differentials for those two workforces. A two-tier system in a 6-school system is in our minds not sustainable. And so our rebranding is, again, it's not some surface application. It is a deep and intentional program, and the work will never end. I mean, we've been thinking about this for some time. It will go on as we continue to develop better curriculum, better ways of thinking, better, more fundamental activities for the children. But that's what our rebranding is about. It is about aligning all of our schools in Vermont under this education and care banner. I want to talk for a moment about our industry and the education sector, because I have been in this business. And I'm sorry, I should have just given you a little bit. I've been in the business for 27 years. I started the way most people in our business have started, and that is because they had a need for great care for their own child. And that was true for me. So I have been through many business cycles in the industry. I have never, in my 27 years, seen the industry as it exists today. COVID devastated our industry. At one point, we lost approximately 120,000 educators out of our sector. 10% of our workforce left and never came back for a wide variety of reasons. We are also in a moment that we are choosing to celebrate, and that is our industry, the education sector in full, is coming to a reckoning. Teachers are no longer willing to do their jobs for the love of the job or the love of the children. They want a decent wage, they want good benefits, training opportunities, advancement opportunities. They want a career that they can stay in. And we are committed to getting that to happen for them. We think of our schools and we think of our organization, our company, as a place where people grow their business. 33% of our company has been with us for longer than 3 years. 20% of our company has been with us longer than 5 years. We have a teacher at HeartWorks Shelburne Road. Sherry Bird has been with us for over 31 years. And we celebrate Sherry for that. So we are at a convergence point in our industry where we have a labor shortage. We have very high wage inflation, and we have the impact of COVID, all of which has made it incredibly challenging for any childcare provider to operate in this environment. We have had, in the last 2 years, wage increases that have been double or triple the prevailing economic rate of inflation. And we have done that in no small part as an effort to recruit and retain the best teachers that we can. And I will tell you, there is work every day to do that. We have dedicated recruiters, Amanda's team. We have dedicated enrollment folks who assist with all of that, like Chelsea, all of whom are focused on bringing the best teachers in to HeartWorks, LoveWorks, and most importantly, keeping them here. That is essential for us. I want to talk about a second point that was raised, that is what we're doing with the tuition increase is not reflective of Vermont. It's not reflective of the human-centric ethos that in part defines what Vermont values. And our experience has been that is true of Vermont, and Vermont is a very special place. But in the last 2.5 years, Burlington has stopped looking like a lot of Vermont. Burlington, as we look at it, looks more like Stamford, Connecticut. It looks more like Essex County, Newton, Winchester, Natick, towns that are the close suburbs of Boston. Burlington's not Boston, we know that, but Burlington today is not Burlington of a few years ago. And I'm sure you've seen that if you've recently bought into the town, and in housing inflation in general in Burlington, I would argue, I don't know this for a fact, is higher than the national average. So we are working within a microcosm that is Burlington that does not resemble much of the rest of Vermont. And the other thing I would note with regard to the labor challenges that we have, the greater Burlington area, the last I looked, had about 200 to 210,000 people. We have 6 schools in this area. That is a relatively shallow labor pool for us to be drawing from. We have towns where we have a single school where the nearby population is almost 90,000. In more densely populated areas, there's simply more folks that we can recruit from. So labor is a daily uphill battle for us. And then finally, I want to talk about, and this will be more or less kind of the last point I want to make. Where's the money going? It's a really fair question. And you're owed an answer. And what I'll tell you is a couple of things. One, for us, the money is going to sustain the schools. Between everything that I've described to you and the tuitions as they currently exist, the model, the financial model for these schools was not sustainable. That's a hard thing to hear because it's already costing you an arm and a leg. And we know that. Childcare is so expensive. So is operating childcare. Because everything about what we do is based on the human beings involved in our business. We'll never have an algorithm that replaces, Gabby at Loveworks Shelburne Road. We'll never have, a program, AI will never substitute for Caroline or Nikki. So it's the people for us. We've closed programs in Vermont. We shut schools down. This was before I came into the CEO role, but I hear descriptions of it. March of 2020, we closed programs because they were not financially sustainable. And so for us, the hard choice here is bring in more revenue or run the risk of closing the schools. Now, I want to say it again. We are all in an enterprise within a broken system. It's too expensive for parents. It's too expensive for providers, and our states and our federal government are simply not doing enough to help us out. If it hadn't been for the storm, Tara Brooks and I would have been in Montpelier today, talking with legislators, advocating for Vermont's budget, which we hope will actually provide some relief for families, provide some opportunities for responsible providers to pass through money to teachers in the form of bonuses and/or additional trainings. We're very committed to training, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. So where's the money going? In 21, 22, 23, and 24, much less in 21, but also in 21, we have over $500,000 in capital expenditures, either already spent or intended for these two schools. You've already seen some of the benefit of that at both schools, and it's been beneficial to the school, but also to the staff. Part of all of this that we do is to create a professional workplace for staff. So, new flooring at Essex Junction, a washer dryer at Essex Junction. Caroline, you know, will never tell you this, but I will. She used to take the laundry home and do it on weekends because there wasn't a washer dryer in that school. Unacceptable. Generous of heart and of spirit. And I have such respect for Caroline, but from our perspective, not acceptable for an educational professional to be doing that. So we now have a washer dryer. We're trying to create a small but private staff room in Essex Junction. We've moved Nikki's desk to the front of the hallway there. We've added a ring camera bell, and we've done some painting there. More to be done. We intend to redo the playground. We intend to add better security systems, as we have already begun to roll out at other schools in Vermont, because health and safety is our primary issue. So it is around the facilities work, and that's all well and good. It's a one-time spend, but it is very substantial investment, and it started years ago, and it will be ongoing for years to come. The greatest degree of investment we've made has been in staff compensation. Prior to 2019, no Vermont teacher or director had benefits of any kind. We have, in the last, specifically, very intentionally, in the last 2 years, expanded the benefits program to respect these folks as professionals. First and foremost,
David, you said
Yes.
2019, and it was upon acquisition. So prior to acquisition, there were no Vermont employees that had any kind of benefits. There was no health benefit to Heartworks
Right.
prior to acquisition. And benefits have strengthened, which I know you'll talk about, but it wasn't 2019. It was prior to the acquisition as part of our network. There were no benefits provided by the employer to any Vermont employee. So for example, Sherry Bird, who's been with us for 30 years, didn't start getting benefits through the company until it was acquired by our network.
okay, thanks for the correction. I appreciate that. First and foremost, we've rolled out 75% childcare discount for a teacher's first child, a 50% discount for a teacher's second child, and we are rolling out the sibling discount, which means their third child would have a 10% discount. I would love, if the state did nothing, I'd like the state to commit to paying for childcare for every childcare worker. If that alone would bring people into our industry. So That's been a very substantive change for us, and very, very intentional. And on top, for the directors themselves, we now offer and provide support through folks like Amanda's team, through Chelsea, through Erin, support in operating the school from an administrative perspective that they never had before, to an extent that they never had before. We are rolling out to all teachers our LMS, our learning management system, so that they can take training. We have had for years, but Vermont has never enjoyed, low or no cost classes that can be taken through Penn Foster. We pay for that. Teachers don't. We're revamping our tuition reimbursement policy to make it more effective. We offer a very comprehensive benefit plan, health, medical, dental, vision. We provide as well a 401k match for our staff, 60% of whom are now enrolled. One of the things that we are proudest of is that in the last 2 years, we have not raised insurance premiums for any staff, despite the inflation, the inflationary environment. And we've absorbed that, or we've negotiated no increase. So we expect, unfortunately, persistent inflation, as we just saw. It's still 6%. It's lower than it had been, but February was higher than previous months. Inflation continues to be a very persistent and challenging reality for all of us. The other thing that we have invested in, along with Tara, is we have migrated a best practice from our other schools, which is what we refer to as a Q365 quality audit. And that is an 88-point checklist that is conducted on a trimester basis at every school, looking at all of the areas that a licensor would look at to ensure that the school is in compliance. Now, it's customized to Vermont. It reflects the rules of the state. And so that aspect covers not only health and safety, but it also covers curriculum. It covers teacher connections with directors. It covers director professional development plans, and is very comprehensive, because we think self-assessing is one of the best ways that we can continue to ensure that our directors have the support of their directors of operations in running the best schools possible. The other 3 programs I'd like to talk about is we have introduced in 2022, we introduced a program called Seed and Sow. It happens to be a Vermont-based company. It is a company that is focused on supporting teachers who may be faced with a more challenging issue within a classroom, may not know what to do. We have seen so many behavioral issues with children who've not had the good fortune to be as socialized as children prior to the pandemic. So they're coming into our schools. We're simply seeing more and more behavioral adjustments to children coming into school. Teachers are challenged by this because the teachers that we're seeing aren't coming out of ECE programs the way they came out of those programs in larger numbers prior to the pandemic. Seed and Sow started in Vermont with 2 schools, Loveworks Shelburne Road and Heartworks Shelburne Road and Loveworks Essex Junction. We are now committed to expanding that program across the other 6 schools in other 4 schools in Vermont, so that for the teachers, for the directors, they have an opportunity to turn to an expert in a wide variety of best practices in care and education who can assist in the moment. They've been a great partner for us. 2 other programs that we've introduced. We've introduced mentor teachers to our schools. My goal by the end of 2023 is to have at least, well, depending on the size of the school, at least 1 mentor teacher in every school, ideally 2 mentor teachers in every school, who are skilled individuals, skilled teachers who have the capacity to help to onboard, help to educate, help to bring along new teachers, but also who have a high degree of competency, so they can even work with our veteran teachers who may need just a little bit of a nudge to get something done in a classroom, or they need somebody to run an idea by. These folks, the mentor teachers, help to augment the capabilities that the directors have. So they're part of the director's team for operating the schools. Finally, we have resurrected a program, but expanded on that program. We now have health, safety, and security coordinators in each one of our schools. That person's job is 1 to 3 hours a week, is to go through the school, check the first aid box, check the playground, check the locks, check the windows, look to see, do we have the allergy sheets posted properly? Are the bleach bottles appropriately positioned out of reach of children? Are there no cords for electric devices, where a child might be able to reach them? Sleep safe. Are we sure we have nothing in the cribs? That program, again, there will be 1 at every school in Vermont. And I don't know, I believe we have 1 now at every school. And that is a formal program. And to be clear, each one of those programs, each participant in those programs has a stipend that they receive. So, yeah.
David, just connected to, as you're talking about cost of services and operation, Allison had put in the chat, if you could expand upon more. You mentioned capital expenditures of about $500,000, and she was unclear on the term capital expenditures. Does that
Sure.
mean the organization has taken on a debt of that amount that the increased tuition is helping to pay back?
No, it's not debt. We're taking it out of our operating funds. We're taking it out of monies that we have budgeted this year. So no, we're not. We are not taking on debt to pay for that. Not at all. And when and sorry, it's a term I understand, and I made an assumption. A capital expenditure is something that has lasting, has a life cycle. It can go for, if you did your roof and it has a 30-year warranty from the roofer, that's a capital expense with a 30-year life cycle. In this instance, the capital expenditures that I'm talking about are new furniture, fixtures, and equipment, new FF&E. We're looking at remediation of the playground at Loveworks Shelburne Road. We're looking at new fencing for at Loveworks Essex Junction. We are looking at what we can do with that playground. That playground sits. We can't dig into that playground. So what we would do is we would take away the wood chips, which I will tell you, it's kind of a cheap and cheerful application that is acceptable by licensing agencies, but it's messy. Children put those chips in their mouths. Those chips, no matter how well they're tended, you have to replenish them every year. We would replace those with what is called a pour in place. It's a rubberized recycled material, so that areas under climbing structures would have safer and more cushioned fall zones. So
David,
it's that, yeah.
could you also go in a little bit more to this health, safety, and coordinator position? So Brian had left a comment just highlighting that the standards felt basic and concerning that schools weren't currently meeting sleep safe standards, which I know is not the case. We're in 100% compliance, but if you could give a bit more clarity into what the role provides as an added assurance and why it's essential at every location.
Sure. And so I didn't mean to imply that we are not meeting those standards, but you could have a loose fitting sheet that a child has kind of, just grabbed the corner of, and that loose fitting sheet would be a violation if a licensor walked through the classroom. So we are practicing safe sleep processes. I mean, that is a standard for us. And so it is simply the assurance. I will say, and this is maybe just slightly trite, but it's a bit of how we think about it. It's a bit of trust but verified. So we want to be sure that all of the standards that we currently have in place to keep your children safe are in effect every day in every classroom, and that's what the health, safety, and security coordinator does. It is a job that used to be managed by center directors. We thought, why not train people to understand how to do this and how to be vigilant, how to not go nose blind as to, hey, this looks okay because it's always looked okay. Well, you know what? It's not okay. And again, we're working with human beings. We're working with a workforce that is young. And in some cases, while we are diligent about training them before they go into ratio, they may forget that a cord that would normally be just fine if it was in their home or in their house is not appropriate for where it is in the classroom. And they need to be reminded of that. So it is an augmentation of all of the safety standards that we currently operate by. I'll just say this and then I'll stop because I know I've run over my time. We are amongst the most heavily regulated industries that people have common access to. Industrial production, energy, transportation, they're probably more regulated than we are. And we all ride trains and we all, benefit from that. But our industry is regularly visited, unannounced by licensors. We can receive non-compliances for less than best practice. And we welcome that degree of scrutiny. It's why we have the Q365. It's why we have the health, safety, and security coordinators. So I want to stop because I do want to give us enough time to, and I've seen that this is, there are a number of questions in the chat. So with that, I'll stop.
So if you want to go to, we've been responding to them.
Okay.
If you want to take Megan's question first, who I can see, Megan Ball, I can see your hands up so you can control your mic. That would be great.
Megan, yep, sorry. Yes, hi, I see you. Yep. You're on mute. Oh, Amanda, I think.
There it goes.
trying
Thank
to-
you. It wasn't
No, you
allowing me at
can,
first.
yeah, you can, yes, you can. Everyone has the ability to unmute themselves now.
Okay, great. Thank you. David, I want to thank you for doing this and for lack of a better term, offering yourself up to the firing squad. First and foremost, I want you to know for sure that we value our directors and teachers at LoveWorks exponentially. This, I hope that you know that any of our struggles with the recent announcement is not geared towards the staff or the teachers. And so I do appreciate you striving to be the best and wanting to reach those standards. I also will respectfully speak to the Heartworks on Shelburne Road. I think the people that were able to attend Heartworks on Shelburne Road is a slightly different family structure than maybe those of us who came to LoveWorks. I think most of us you'll find are either single parents or a 2 working parent household. And so this rate hike, you said, where is the money going? And I appreciate you listing that. But I also think you should understand where the money's coming from. If this has been your intention for over a year, that was heartbreaking for me. I scrambled to call on wait lists as soon as you announced, when I realized through tears that I was not going to be able to afford to stay here. And so we spaced our children out for financial reason. And these wait lists are till 2026. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I just hope that you can hear in our voice, and that I want to leave plenty of time for other people, but I hope you can hear the heartbreak in our voice, that it's not even just financial. I don't want to leave Caroline and Andrea and Shannon and all of these teachers. My son is 5, he started there. We've been with LoveWorks since the beginning, and this is really hard for me. And we're not in a typical family. I don't qualify for subsidies, but we are paycheck to paycheck. And our plan right now, so that you know, is that we are going to continue to pay the price, basically until the ACH doesn't take money out of our account anymore. We're going to drain our savings because we don't have a choice. We need to stay in our careers. But this is substantial for us. And 5 months may sound like a really long time to you to give, but when the wait list is 2026 and the increase is, nearly $500 a month, it's significant to us. So my main question for you after that statement is just, is there anything in the letters that you've received or the comments that you're going to hear tonight and tomorrow that would potentially impact your decisions to meet us in the middle? We haven't even talked about the calendar. On top of this, I now need to find 4 whole weeks of care where I'm already paying $461 a week. I don't know how I'm going to afford a babysitter on top of that. I can't take that much time off. Is there anything in your plan that would allow a willingness to compromise and to meet some of your families in the middle?
Yeah, so Megan, thank you for that. And I can see Jason's support of that for sure. We are faced with a choice that this has to be a path that we go down. When I say that we have been thinking of this for a year, if I thought a year ago we were going to make this increase, we would have announced it. We have thought about this, but it was only in the last number of months, two months, I think, that we arrived at at the hard choice of what we needed to do here. And I hear you, and I hear the heartbreak in your voice. But we are committed to this path, and we are committed to this schedule.
There's more. So Shannon and Jason, both have their hands up. Just also, David, there was in the comment saying, was LoveWorks Heartworks not profitable since 2019? And I just wanted to reiterate the line in your letter that we know the LoveWorks schools have been enrolled, but enrollment has not covered the cost of running the schools.
It hasn't, and that's been exacerbated by the need and our intent and our desire to provide an equitable wage for all our teachers in Vermont, and an equitable benefits platform for all our teachers in Vermont. And so I know the choice that you face is between tuition as it stands and tuition as it will be. And for our, in our either or, it was tuition as it will be, or it was the potential, the very, very real potential that we could not continue to operate the schools. Jason, did you have did you want to go off mute? or-
Jason just said in the comments that Shannon had her hand up first, so thank
Oh,
you,
okay.
Jason and Shannon,
Please.
if you want to go.
Please. Amanda, I think maybe you unmute. I think maybe, is it possible you muted everybody?
No, everyone has control to unmute. There you go, Shannon.
Sorry, that
Okay,
took
great.
me about 3 clicks.
That's
Thank you,
okay, no
Jason.
problem.
And thanks
Sure.
everybody. I'll try not to ramble. There's a reason I work with children. Talking in front of a bunch of grownups is a little intimidating, but I just want to second everything that Megan said. That was beautifully said. I feel like I'm coming with a unique perspective because I worked for LoveWorks Essex for over a year. I was there when I was pregnant with my son and when he was born. I've also been a elementary classroom teacher for over a year, or I'm sorry, for over a decade. So I really do understand the perspective, and I want to support everything that's happening for the betterment of the staff. I truly could not respect Caroline more as a boss, as a colleague, as a friend. I feel just so grateful for the entire organization. And David, you and I have met previously, and I really do want to preface all of this with, I truly respect how you've run the organization. And as a former employee, I do see the benefits that are being offered to teachers. And I think that that's incredible. I guess really what I want to say is I do have a little bit of pushback on your point about, Heartworks being solely this kind of, I don't know, bastion of brain science and development. I see for a fact that that's happening at LoveWorks, and I see it in the directorship, and I see it with my former colleagues and now friends, and I see how hard they work, and I see that it is based in science, and I see it's based in training that is already happening on a monthly basis. That's already something that, we are bearing the brunt of a monthly early closure for this continued training that is super beneficial. But I just want to point out that that is happening already. And to your point that, Burlington may not be reflective of Vermont. We don't all live in Burlington. I don't even work in Chittenden County. So I think just, my husband and my wages don't reflect the socioeconomic changes that may be happening in Burlington. I think, those changes I'm sure are happening, but that gap is still there and it's still increasing. So I suppose, again, I rambled, I said I wasn't going to, but my question, because I do want to try to be solution oriented here, and I hear what your answer was to Megan's question, but is there any sort of co-op model we can move toward? We're already closing all of these days, which I understand there's illness. We want to make sure ratios are intact, and I understand that. But if the alternative is that we're fully closed, maybe we can move to some sort of creative model or something like that. I'm not sure. But if that could be on the table, I think that's something that there may be some interest in. I know that there are other parent teachers who are in this chat as well. So it's, I don't know, it's something that may be on the table if that's something people are open to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Shannon, thank you. Jason, did you want to? There you go.
For some reason, it takes a few button presses. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I won't repeat everything everybody said, but look, we all want the best for our kids, like that's why we chose LoveWorks. We chose it over other places due to the price, due to the education that our kids are receiving, due to the excellent teachers that we all have and love. What threw me for a loop though is comparing Burlington, Vermont to Stamford, Connecticut, the borderlines, the highest income zip code in the country, Greenwich, Connecticut, that most of those people who you're referring to are finance guys in New York City. That's not what we do up here in Burlington, Vermont. And to compare Burlington to that, and the fact that most of us don't even live here is kind of that's a little, oh my God, is that what you guys think we live in? Because that's just kind of scary. And to increase by 40%, like, look, if your rent increased by 40% next year, like what would you do? Like your mortgage, anything in your life increases by 40%, like what are you supposed to do about that? I would have to move, like pretty sure anyone else here would too, or else you would be paying more money for your rent and whatever already. I do think that there should be some sort of rollout of this, you know, do we have to break the bank immediately to pay for all of these things that you talked about? Or can we slow roll it a little bit? Hey, over the next 5 years, we're going to increase tuition by this amount a year to reach these goals, which I don't know, happens at the company that I work for. Like nobody just like, you know, it's a 6% whatever rate, like thing that we're dealing with right now, but like to combat that with a 40% increase in tuition is just kind of like, I'm not a mathematician, but that's just, that doesn't add up to me. I don't know. I'm just kind of like blown away that that's kind of what you think is the norm in the industry. Like I went to college for like less money than this, you know, this is, and I'm still in debt from those college tuition payments with a job. My kid's going to be in debt at 4 when he gets out of nursery school. This is crazy. Like, I'm not trying to like berate you or anything. I'm just trying to get you to see where we're coming from. And like, if any of us could afford tuition that's that much more, we'd already be doing it. And like, I just think all that being said, if we could come up with a rollout plan, like let's prioritize, like most businesses, look, this is the top priority that we want to get done in the next year. Let's take the money for that. Maybe little things like redoing the floor, like, I don't know, I'm just picking one, but like, yeah, training our staff to not let the kids sleep in dangerous situations. Yeah, that's a top priority. But like, maybe we roll it out, get the teachers an increase in salary, because I totally believe they deserve it. But do we need to do everything at once is my piece.
So thanks for the comments. And let me just clarify. I don't think you live in Stamford, Connecticut. I think we pay like I think we pay like Stamford, Connecticut. And I just, so let me just tease that out a little bit.
And yeah, not to be rude, I'm from that area. I don't pay what people pay in Stamford, Connecticut for my cost of living right now. I'm from New York City. Like I'm very familiar with that area. And like my rent is much cheaper than the rent for the same size place in Stamford. Same with like everything else in my daily life.
I can just, yeah, I think it's what we're talking about is the recruit. So I can say as a head of recruitment, our teacher salaries are the same. And prior, what David had mentioned before. So there was a time in LoveWorks and HeartWorks where the people who worked in those schools made different wages. So HeartWorks directors and HeartWorks teachers were paid on a different scale than LoveWorks directors and LoveWorks teachers for the majority of operations. That has not been the case for more than 2 years, where regardless of where you work, you're now paying, and we are paying, when to David's point, we are paying the teachers in LoveWorks and HeartWorks at the same scale as our teachers in Stamford, Connecticut.
And that has everything to do with labor shortages and wage inflations. When 6% has been our economic inflation, our wage inflation, as I said, has been three times that. The range, and I'll make one final point and then jump in, Jason, please. But the range of salary increases that we've had has been between approximately 15 and 28% on an hourly basis, because trying to find teachers, trying to be competitive in a competitive market, Target, Burlington Bay, Costco, people are paying starting wages at $16, $17, $18 an hour. in an environment that was never the case. We were paying teachers today $4 more than we were paying teachers 3 years ago or pre-pandemic.
And that's great. I want that. I want the teacher. If anyone's getting a raise, it should be the teachers. But I don't like, that's not what this whole tuition increase is for, right? Like that's a piece of it for sure. And it sounds like it's already happened. So is this increase even going to account for that? Or is this all for the other things discussed? Like I'm all for the teachers getting a raise, but I think maybe the playground reconstruction could wait a year if the result of this means no kids to play on the playground.
I heard. Okay.
Danny and
you-
Suzanne, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, am I live?
You are.
Okay, well, I guess I just want to ask some straight up questions. Like you said, you lost money. I'm just curious how much money you lost last year.
No, we're not up. Well, so let me start with,
I mean, it's just a pretty blunt question. I feel like I think we can talk in mystical theories all night, but I think if you're saying you're losing money, let us know how much.
we're a private company. And I'm
To
not
me,
going
that means like you're not losing money and you're
I'm not-
taking advantage of a situation where you have a long wait list and you know none of us can leave. So you're manipulating and taking advantage of that situation. And
That's
I just,
untrue.
then
I will
prove
just-
to
I will-
us how that's not true.
I will share with you, Danny, my
All of us.
candor and bluntness. Yes, I'm answering your question. I'm sharing with everybody your bluntness to say we're not going to reveal our financials because we are a private company. I will say that the choice here was between continuing to operate the school with at a higher tuition level or the real potential of having to close the school down because it was not making enough money. We were not able
Not
to
making
sustain
enough money.
it. Yes, not making enough money.
Yeah, but I mean, just go back to what Jason and everybody said. It's like we're people here and we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I think it's really, disappointing. And, just going back, like we love it there. We love Caroline. We love the teachers. We love being there. But, you're putting us in a really hard spot because a lot of us can't afford it. And that calendar at the same time is insane. Like, I think all the initiatives that you outlined for Heartworks are great. Like, that sounds great, but that's not what we signed up for because we can't afford that. That's not what we chose. I don't have anybody that lives here. I don't have anybody that can watch my kid when I have to go to work and run my own business. Like, it's just seems very unfair. And I think the least you could do is just be truthful in what you guys are doing and try to say like you're being the good guy, because that's just whitewashing. That's how I feel right now. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call feel like that, because the least you could do is give us 2 years to transition out, because I'm trying to leave. I don't want to pay that. I mean, I saw it sounds great, but like, there's nowhere for me to go. There's nowhere for any of us to go. And I think y'all know that. So, I mean, for me, I just wanted to say my piece because I feel strongly about it. And I feel really sad by it because I think we've built a beautiful community here. And it's sad to know that, when we go to school in September, I might not be there. My daughter might not be there. All of your kids might not be there. We are all family. We're all friends. And that seems like what we're trying to do. So when I ask you bluntly, how much did you lose? Why can't we meet in the middle? Why can't we make it profitable for you and feasible for us? Because to me, the reason why we can't is because Little Sprouts is trying to take advantage of a really dire situation.
Thank you, Danny. Suzanne?
Suzanne, you should be able to.
There you go.
Got it. All right. Sorry, I live under the jets, which I also wouldn't live under if I could afford. I appreciate Danny for your bluntness. It's maybe a little bit stronger than I wanted to say, but I think we have one child in Loveworks, and you know, we're hoping to eventually have another kid. And it's more than my salary is what you're asking. Like right now, it's more than half of my salary goes to daycare. And I mean, I'm a teacher, and like I believe the staff should be paid well, but like to take this service that you're providing for the community and make it a business that's going to be like, sorry, I'm crying. I didn't expect that. It's been very stressful because there are for every spot in Vermont, there is another child on a wait list for that spot. As you know, it's the same thing with housing. Like we own a rental, and like the rental market here is insane. We could double the prices that we charge, and we're not doing that. And it feels like you're really taking a very human situation. And I don't want to say that you're exploiting that, but it feels very uncomfortable, and it feels like I can't trust you. We've already had rate increases. You know, like our salaries don't increase like during the year, and we've already had rate increases this year, and we've had closures that have caused incredible amounts of stress. And I know that that's like, there's been incredible illness and all of the other things. And I know that like, it's not your fault that there is no support in our government for families. And like, I really respect everything you're doing and believe in everything you're doing. But like, if you had asked me if like I wanted to pay $100 extra a week for one child to go to care, so we could have like beautiful benches in the entryway, like we came in and we felt like the benches were fine. Like I felt like the floor was fine. There was not any safety concerns for me. Like, so it's really hard, and the capital improvements wouldn't necessarily, like I said, be my choice. Like I agree in paying people and giving them more time off, but this is incredibly stressful, and will make it so I can either work or have another child. Like I can't do both. And it's just, you're putting us in a really hard situation, and I hope you understand that there's like the human side that you're doing to all your families too.
Thank you, Suzanne. I hear you. We do know, and it is never far from our consideration. We understand that this is a very, very challenging. This is a great challenge that we have placed before you. We understand that. We have seen what happens when schools close down. And we have seen families lose care because that school closes down. And we have seen when teachers lose their jobs because those schools close down. So we always take the human toll. We always keep the human toll in mind. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, TL Smith, your hand is up. You should be, yeah.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Yep.
Okay. So
Great.
I am just actually following up on a question that was in the chat that hasn't been addressed yet. I would like to know if the executive salaries are increasing beyond standard inflation with this change.
So I won't talk about anybody's salary but my own. And what I can tell you is, in the last 5 years, the salary for this position has reduced by 20%. Our teachers, because of the economics, our teachers had to wait 16 months for a raise. So I deferred my own salary by 18 months. So I think that's a fair question, and I won't give anybody else's information, but I can tell you what I can tell you about this position.
I would also like to know, there's a center right up the road that offers extended care hours, and they're able to charge $100 less per week with the extended care option, which is an additional charge. And yet they're still able to turn a profit, and they have done significant improvements to their center. And it's, quite frankly, it's beautiful. So I'm wondering why you can't seem to do the same thing.
I don't know their operating model. I don't know what they're paying. I don't know what they're paying teachers. I don't know what they're offering for benefits. I don't know what they're offering for training. And so I can only speak to our own financial model. And that is with the salaries that we pay, with the training opportunities that we provide, with the benefits that we offer. It is an economic, it's a very heavy financial load, financial burden because of the number of employees that we have to have based on state ratios and based on best practice. So I can't answer for them. I can only tell you about us.
Very disheartening. It seems like your mind was already made up before you got on the call. And I don't feel like the input of the families is really even being taken into consideration. That's my piece right there.
Agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Zoom user, you're unmuted, so you can certainly
Oh,
ask
ask
your
a question,
question.
yep.
I couldn't address.
Hello.
Apologies.
Hi there.
Hi.
We're pretty new to this game. We have almost a 15-month-old, and he loves it there. We're also pretty young, and we wanted the best for him, and so we kind of gritted our teeth, and we've been paying the tuition and through the closures. And I mean, you're lucky I have the position I did at my company, because I could leave whenever. I was right up the road. But I mean, through all that, I was shocked and I was pretty upset when I saw the tuition increase. We only have them enrolled for 3 days, and it's a whole week's paycheck for me. Like, I don't really understand how you're going to accommodate younger families. Like, we don't live in Burlington. Like, she works in Burlington, but like, I don't know. It seems like everybody else is saying you have already made up your mind. And I thought that was a tactic from a corporation. I mean, releasing the news that you're going to up the tuition right before enrollment and not giving us the time to put us in that kind of chokehold. I mean, it makes me emotional just thinking about it, because that's manipulation, I feel like. So, I mean, I know your wait list is deep, but what are we, like, when does it stop? What's going to stop you from raising even more? And I mean, it just kind of makes us feel like suckers. So is the point of this,
it's been like raised like 3 times since and I want the teachers are great, but it's been raised 3 times, and we started in May of last year, but this will be like the 3rd time it's raised. And
exponentially.
I'm a hairdresser. I've asked clients if that's normal at other daycares, and they said that doesn't happen to them.
Yeah, it's pretty, just kind of blows my mind. I don't know what position we're supposed to do. Like, is the point of this meeting just kind of letting us know that you're not going to budge, and if we can't afford it, to hit the road? I guess that's my question, is that the point?
The point was to share the intention around the rebranding, the upgrades, the enhancements, again, we respect, we love, we have deep appreciation for what already does happen at LoveWorks. Caroline, Nikki, the staff there, they're amazing. We want to do better. We want to have a more intentional educational program. We want to introduce better, more focused educational opportunities and look at curriculum that will give the best start for every child for the first, 0 to 3, the first 1,000 days. And so it was to explain our motivation behind this and to help you to understand or to be a bit more transparent. And I acknowledge that first letter was not as transparent as I should have made it as to what we are doing with the transition. Thank you. Abby, Abby, I see you. Thank you.
So just kind of backing up, I've been at LoveWorks working there since June. So when I give the next information, we're not talking like I've been there for years, where my pay would be significantly different. I guess I'm just wondering why, again, back to there being a center down the road that charges $100 less per week, why the starting pay there is $4 more than the starting pay at LoveWorks, but they're charging $100 less a week and are still able to maintain their centers and expand. They bought a whole new building and are doing all the renovations and still upholding a level of respect that all the families at not only our center, but all the families across Vermont deserve. I don't understand why it feels like lining the pockets of a corporation is more important than maintaining our obligation and our promise to the families that have enrolled in our center. I love the children in my class. I am so dedicated to what I do. And I can't respect myself by putting my name on something that clearly does not show respect for the families that they're enrolling. It's just not fair. My families were enrolled in October, and you're giving them months of being in our center, getting their children transitioned. And let's not even remember the fact that a typical transition for a full-time student takes 12 weeks. And right at the 12-week mark, we had Christmas break. So we're barely hitting a point where these kids are transitioned fully, feeling confident and safe and loved and protected and valued in our center. And you're giving them the option to either afford to live or afford to have childcare. And it's not fair. And it's just flat out disrespectful to all the families that you've made an obligation and a promise to. So I don't understand why there's no wiggle room. It feels like there is no respect or value placed on the families that are putting so much trust and respect into us and our center. It just doesn't seem fair, and it doesn't seem right.
Well, thank you, Abby. I don't know how the other school does it. I mean, I just have to say, I don't understand how that model works. So I'm sorry, but I can't answer to how they pay $4 more an hour. And I will go back to what I have been saying. And that is
nothing.
We do not come into this with disrespect for you. We come into this with a grave concern that we will not be able to continue operating the schools.
Abby, I know that this isn't not the intention of your share, but just we do market research on salaries at competing locations all of the time. So I don't know. My guess is if you joined in June, it was either Chrissy Trainer or Colleen Russo who worked with you in recruiting. We don't have that data of any school offering that, but I can tell you we're interested in that. So I don't know how that and what position that would be. That goes against everything that we have and that we look at on a monthly and weekly basis. So I'm not discrediting you whatsoever, but saying like that's information that it is helpful to know, because to David's point, we wouldn't know how that's possible, but we do want to know if that's what's being offered in the area.
Yeah, for sure.
Regarding the tuitions in the other areas, so I'm sure that this goes, as everyone knows, so these are the same. What's unique about Vermont is that tuition with this would be the same at all Heartworks schools across the state. So this isn't a differentiation between schools. This would be the same tuition at all locations.
And market research is challenging in the sense that few schools want to give out information and are willing to share. That said, we continue to try to do that. We resist and don't do what many other organizations will do, which is secret shop and present themselves falsely as a potential parent in order to find out what an infant or toddler rate is. We won't do that. I feel that feels dishonest to us. Of the research that we were able to do, this increase will put us where we believe other childcare providers will be in September when they raise their rates. Christina?
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi. So we've been at Loveworks since 2017, since beginning of 2017, and we've had 3 kids go through, and most of the time we've had 2 kids there. And currently we have 2 kids there as well. So I guess one of our questions is, well, let me start by, first up, when we do go to Loveworks, when we drop our kids off, I have 1 in pre-K and 1 in the infant room, and we see good things happening. So we see, they sit down for circle time, they have their community snack, and they have, their arts and crafts. They send amazing pictures every day of all these, 20 preschoolers sitting down at a table doing arts and crafts, which is an amazing feat to me. I can't even imagine. So we're seeing all these good things, and our children are learning, and they're getting a really good, care during the day. And I guess we're kind of wondering, so with all these improvements and all these things that are going to happen, when we walk in there in September or when this is happening, how is this going to feel different? Compared to, maybe there'll be some better furniture, I don't know, some new stuff, but what's really going to be improved at that point? Our other question, I guess, is, it's all new curriculum that you're saying is bringing Loveworks up to the same standard as Heartworks has been. And if that's the case, then being one company, why is that costing so much? If you guys already have the curriculum from, utilizing it at Heartworks, where are you? I don't know why that would cost so much as far as once you share it with the Loveworks teachers and the Loveworks continuing ed. So I guess those are my 2 kind of questions, comments.
So part of what we're addressing with the tuition increase is changes that have already been made and changes that are creating an economic model that's not sustainable. When we do introduce new curriculum, it will be, for instance, we're taking STEM and STEAM modules from our STEAMworks organization, from our STEAMworks school, and bringing that over. I would like to have that be at least a 2-hour module every day with project-related activities. That takes training. It takes time to bring those teachers up to speed in order to be able to do that. It takes new materials. It takes different ways for these teachers to understand how to educate children. So there is cost associated with all of that. We're offering now more training opportunities that we are paying for in terms of the Penn Foster availability. It costs us to take our learning management system and expand it beyond where it is currently being used. We have a very intentional focus on diversity. The HeartWorks and LoveWorks schools both have had a strong history of focus on multiculturalism, which we respect, but that we don't feel that that goes far enough. We don't feel that that actually addresses issues of diversity and equity. And so there are trainers that we will bring in to do that. We have expanded the training opportunities for HeartWorks the HeartWorks LoveWorks folks to participate in a 2-day conference that now happens across all our schools. So we have, in addition to that, a very specific curriculum around character first. So if you're asking me what will be different, it will be these things. It will be these additional modules that will come into the school. In the coming years, we want to introduce music and the arts. In my experience, music, the ability for children to play act, is an incredibly encouraging and enriching program. Those would cost us, those teachers coming in, and we would not be charging any additional money for those enrichment programs.
And David, just to clarify, so that diversity is really through applying NACE's anti-bias early education, which is it is a specific course of education. It is not just the makeup of the school, but it is a specific practice that was not in actually any of the Vermont schools in a formalized way prior to 2020, and has started to become more a part of their practice and will be more heavily introduced as a set pillar.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Christina, did you have?
Yep.
Shannon, yep.
Oh, sorry. Hi again. Just to reiterate, so I guess as a teacher and parent, I would hope that I would hope that there's a lot of thought and time that's going into curriculum implementation. And so if that's being thought out over the course of what I would hope would be a significant amount of time, if this is, there's research going into it and there's science behind it, it just feels like there's a juxtaposition in the amount of time that we're being told that we have to adhere to this or to adapt to it, because it sounds like, okay, if this was just being implemented now and then all of a sudden like we're needing to make up the cost of it, I'm just not understanding that. And also this arts integration and things that you're speaking to, just like Christina was saying, these are things that are already happening. These are things that I'm seeing from teachers that are getting into the field because of, regardless of their level of training, they have this passion and they have this innate ability. And I'm just not understanding the need to pay more for something that is already innately happening at these schools that I saw every single day from infant through pre-K for over a year, there every single day, 40 hours a week. And now additionally with my son there, I'm seeing it when I'm picking up, I'm seeing it popping in randomly throughout the day when I come to get him. I apologize that I'm sounding so, that this is my tone. It's typically not, but this is the point that I'm at with this. It just sounds so, it feels really disrespectful, and it feels like I'll speak for myself. It feels like I'm being spoken to as though I don't have an understanding of what goes into this job and what goes in, what the teachers are already putting into this. Training is important. Yes, I agree. Professional development is an extremely, extremely important piece of anyone's career. But these things are already happening, and it feels disrespectful to the teachers that are there who are doing this job already every single day.
So that is the last thing I want to do is in any way disparage the the commitment, the passion of the teachers or directors who were there. I clearly was not effective in trying to make that point earlier in saying we're trying to build on a legacy of care, good care that has been provided at LoveWorks. And it is not my intention to disrespect those teachers, the school directors in any way. And so if that's come across, I'll apologize to that. I'll apologize to Caroline and to Nikki if that's an impression that they might have. They know me. I think they know that that's not my intention. So I haven't meant to speak down to anybody in terms of what the requirements are. I've simply tried to be candid and transparent as to what it is that we're doing. Christina, I know you had a follow-up question, and Jason, yeah.
So no one is, I don't think anybody here is against these improvements, right? So they all sound wonderful. And I think that with any kind of program rollout, there are always varying degrees and levels and tiers, of implementation that we can always, attempt. So, I mean, as far as like adding more music and adding more arts or different, more complex projects or whatever, like that all sounds great. I think that couldn't we do like a lesser like implementation? Like, so I'm sure like us, like my family, I'm sure we would be happy to contribute or donate for all the classrooms to have some musical instruments or whatever it is. And I'm sure a lot of families would feel the same way as far as like a one-time donation. Let's get these types of tools and things into the schools and into each classroom or whatever. And, as far as that goes, like with the same teachers who I'm sure are more than capable of adding additional time or whatever dedicated to these types of programs to, really instill these values and these, these goals for our kids. So it's I just think that there could be a little different strategy to add some of this enrichment in instead of like others have said, it feels like a really big leap. Whereas if maybe we don't have to be that, but we can still get some, some of this stuff added in.
So this is what I've tried to describe this evening is what is very much in practice, in common practice, in many of our schools, almost all of our schools, because this is who we are as a company. This is what we want to be as a company. I hear you, Christina, and there are places that say, sure, parents, bring books in, sure, bring supplies. We don't want parents to do that. We want to be the company that is professionalizes these educators as educators. And so it is our approach to do this in a more formal, more structured manner than to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want people bringing random, stuff they picked up like a free listing or something. Like it's fine to get the appropriate tools, but I think that there are lots of ways that we can acquire these things. So no, I don't think it's just everybody bring their random stuff. I think it should be something like, well, we need to raise this much, and I'm sure a lot of families would donate to that, even though it's, I don't know. So it's, yeah, like others have said, I don't think anything anybody's going to say here is going to change anything.
I hear you. Thank you, Christina.
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah, I guess that's just the point too, is like, look, yeah, we all do want all of these things, but clearly we can't afford it if we're talking about the humanity of this situation. And won't speak for everybody, but I'm pretty sure the reason everybody's here is because we all feel the same way. Look, is there any way that you guys are open to listening to our requests? Like, is there any wiggle room? Like, will you meet us halfway? Is there any point of this conversation that we're having right now, or are you just going to do it no matter what any of us say? Because if that's the case, I don't need to be on this call anymore. It's a waste of all of our time. You know, like, will you, like, if more than 50% of your paying hardworking customers disagree with the business moves you're trying to make, are you open to maybe meeting us halfway, quarter of the way, an eighth of the way? Or do you not care?
I care. I just, I
Won't do
can't,
anything about it?
but we're committed to this path.
So you won't do anything about it, no matter what any of us have to say. That's what you're saying.
Yes,
Just want to hear you say that, because then we can all just stop wasting our time.
yes, we're committed to this path.
Awesome. Thanks for the humanity of all this and listening to your customers and really caring about what we all have to say. That's the most disrespectful thing I've heard out of this whole conversation. So have a nice night.
Thank you all.
And I don't mean to end this if anyone else has anything else to say. That was just the end of my piece.
Amanda, will you save the chat, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, folks. It's been 90 minutes. I appreciate your time tonight. I appreciate you attending. I know that this is not what you wanted to hear. I understand that.
What
And
schools are competing with raise their tuition by 40% to accomplish this goal in 1 year? Or did they do it over time and allow their customers, students to adapt? Or did they all do what you did and just hit us over the head with a price increase? Because that sounds like poor management, you know, like, what's the plan here? Just scrap the whole thing and start over?
I don't understand the question. I can't speak for what other folks have done in terms of their own tuition increases. What I can tell you,
research into it, because has anybody else increased it by 40%? I'm sure I could Google it right now. Like, to accomplish these goals, did anyone else choose a path other than just, I don't know, charging 40% more? I don't know. I'm sure that this isn't my business, but I'm sure there's better ways than just throwing money at it. Sorry, I'm done. I'll leave it at that. I made my point. Sorry.
okay. Thank you, everybody. I think we're going to call it a night. I appreciate your time this evening. Good night.